Hi, and welcome to the Bold Leadership Story Show, where we get to talk about experiences shaping exceptional lives. And today, I have a great opportunity to speak with Destrian Vallejo. How do you say your name? Probably not
Yeah,
doing that right.
you got it right there, Jim. I mean,
Vallejo?
there's
Is it,
multiple,
it
yeah, technically it's Vallejo and then Destrian or
Vallejo? Okay.
Bowman
It's
or
not
any
Valley Joe,
iteration.
right?
Yeah, I've heard them all.
I bet. I grew up in the Bay Area, and then we had a town called Vallejo, and everybody said Vallejo, but it's actually, after my Spanish class, I did learn something. It's probably Vallejo, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Oh, sweet. I did learn something. So let me introduce you,
Yeah.
Destrian.
Yeah.
Destrian was born and raised in Salem, Oregon. So you've got web feet, I'm thinking. Are you a
I
duck?
I am a huge Duck fan.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
born and
cool.
raised. Yeah, very, very much a Duck fan. Although
Uh,
I'm getting set to graduate from UCLA, but yeah, the green runs deep in my blood for sure.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. Uh, I've got some duck friends too.
Yeah.
So you spent a few years bouncing between living with your biological mother and foster care before being adopted by your aunt and uncle when you were 10. So we had a foster son that we had for almost a year. He was at 6 months old and learned a little bit about the foster care system. Um, and tough road. How old were you when you were in the foster care system?
I was about five. I want to say I
Okay.
remember being in kindergarten. I remember the exact age, but yeah, about between kindergarten and second grade, I was kind of in and out. While my biological mother was getting her act together,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, it was definitely a unique experience. As a 5-year-old, you don't have the capacity to process it.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, it definitely shaped me, quite a bit in regards to the person I wanted to be, when I grew up and became a father. Um,
Okay.
so
Yeah,
and
those
you know,
early
with
experiences can really be impactful. I remember I grew up in a great family, but I still have, when I was 5 years old, we had some situations where it wasn't fun. I'd get um, teased and abused by the neighborhood kids, and it was hard for me. And it took me a while to get over that, actually. So it's those early formative years are really important, but it also helped shape me in a way that gave me access to challenges that I've had to overcome, and that's made me stronger and better. So that
yeah, no,
those are great lessons too. So let's see. You were 10 years old. You were adopted, and you played a lot of sports growing up. Where you played, wow, a lot of sports: football, baseball, basketball, tennis, swimming, track and field, and cross country. What was your
yeah.
favorite?
It started off as baseball very, very early on.
What
And then
position did you play?
primarily shortstop.
Okay.
Shortstop, a little bit of center field. Um, but it quickly changed to basketball, and basketball kind of dominated my youth. And then, as I, got a little bit older and out of the youthful phase, I guess you can say, football became the predominant favorite. But growing up,
Okay.
it was definitely basketball.
So football and basketball were the ones you remember the most?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I did a lot of the same. I did baseball, loved baseball. I played Little League and Pony League, and I got recruited into Babe Ruth League, but I decided to do high school ball. I think that was a mistake. But I loved baseball. I'm a lefty. So
Oh, perfect.
I played first base and outfield. I had a pretty good stick. And, but I loved catching, and they wouldn't let me catch because I was left-handed.
Yeah.
So
Hard that third baseline.
yeah, they were afraid of me pelting the batters. I'd get
Yeah.
thrown to second base, but that
Yeah.
was
Well,
a
it
lot of
sounds like you're
fun.
a little bit better than me. I was decent at all, but I wasn't getting recruited for any, I was always a middle pick.
Yeah, we were in a small town, so it's like, they didn't have a whole lot of choice. But It was fun. I think what they were looking for was I had a batting average that was pretty good. I was around 320 back then, which was pretty good.
Yeah, that's real good.
So let's see. And then after high school, you went to college, kind of goofed around, partied full time for a couple of years, and goofed around.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's probably a good thing. Well, how about that experience? What was your takeaway now that you've got some perspective? Would you recommend doing that? Taking some time off between high school and life?
Yeah, I mean, it worked out really well for me. I came from a family that didn't really push college, that much.
Okay.
And, I was kind of trying to do it just because that's what I was supposed to do,
Yeah.
and so, but yeah, living life like that and experiencing adulthood, free of my parents, free of structure for a little while, played a huge impact in how much, I appreciated, the adults in my life, but also, once I joined the Marine Corps a little bit later, which I'm sure you're about to get into, it like some of the stuff that some of my, my Marine Corps brothers and sisters would complain about, because the Marine Corps is very structured. You first come in, there are a lot of restrictions on what you can and can't do, but having had to provide for myself for a couple years and kind of figure life out without the safety net, it made me really, appreciative of what the Marine Corps and the military offered. So yeah, it
Hmm.
played a huge part.
Excellent. So it sounds like it was a good move for you.
It was, in hindsight, right? Like
You're
there's
right.
always,
From the
the
you
one
probably at
back.
the time you're like, well, I just went from the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's, and you spend years going, oh man, if I had started 2 years earlier, this is where I could have been now and what I could have been doing. But in retrospect, like the lessons learned are invaluable and I wouldn't have changed a thing. So
Okay. Very good. Cool. So moving on, once you realize your life wasn't trending in the direction you wanted it to, you decided to join the Marine Corps and left
yeah.
for boot camp 2 weeks after 9/11.
Mhm.
So that must have been kind of an anxious moment after that act of war on our country. What were your thoughts going into that situation?
Yeah, it was really interesting because I had actually made the decision to go to boot camp in April of 2001. And so, I was joining for very, very selfish reasons. I
Uh-huh.
was joining because I was tired of working full time to go to college part time, so I wanted money for school. I wanted to kind of get out of the area to make sure, I can get some discipline and, travel the world a little bit. And those were really my reasons, for,
Hmm.
for joining. And then, I get a phone call the morning of 9/11. We're Pacific Coast, so it was pretty early my time.
Hmm.
And my buddy's like, wake up. And I turn on the TV and at this point, it's very clearly an act of terrorism. So I turned it on probably seconds before the second plane crashed in and it became obvious.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, there was definitely, like, wow, this changes what I'm about to do, because I was already slated to go in 2 weeks. It's not like 9/11 happened and then I went to rush to the recruiter's office. I was already slated to go.
Okay.
And, my mom got on the phone, tried to talk me out of it. And, I
Yeah.
said, no, I gave him my word. I got to go. And it very quickly changed, why I was there. My initial, like I said, my initial thoughts were, selfish. I need to get a leg up in the world. The Marine Corps can help me get there. And then, once 9/11 happened and fast forward a little bit later when I was, part of the initial invasion of Iraq, it changed very much to, a sense of duty, a sense of patriotism, a sense of brotherhood and being there for my brothers and sisters.
Awesome. So those sound like the right reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good. A patriot, a true patriot. I love it.
I try.
So after you uh, got involved with boot camp, went through that experience, you were says you were originally supposed to work in the signals intelligence, but you were
Mhm.
reassigned to be a logistician
Mhm.
um, after the security clearance was denied. So yeah, that's a tough course they put you through to get those security clearances. But sounds like it was a good thing for you because you ended up enjoying what you did next, which I'm very curious to learn more about. It's part of the initial invasion liberation. Let's see, part of the initial invasion and liberation of Iraq in 2003. And then you had a few more deployments and then changed your occupation into a counterintelligence, human intelligence specialist. Say
Yep.
that 10 times fast.
Well, we put in an acronym, CI human, so it gets a little bit easier.
CI human. Yeah. Okay. So, and then after that, you switched, had a couple of deployments to Afghanistan, and then you were assigned to be a CI human instructor. So tell us about that. Tell me about that. What was that about? What is a counterintelligence, human intelligence specialist?
Yeah, so most other places that do counterintelligence, human intelligence, they separate the two, right? So you have two different people. One guy will do counterintelligence, the other person will do human intelligence. Marine Corps is unique and they combine the two because there are a lot of parallels that naturally go together. And so the human intelligence side is essentially, we have uncertainties on the battlefield, right? We have areas where we don't have information that we need information. There's various intelligence disciplines, the one you mentioned earlier, signals intelligence, collecting information from, signals, and other types of intelligence. The human intelligence piece is getting information from human sources. So essentially developing a relationship with people and get them to with people that have access to information that we're looking for.
So is this kind of spy-esque where you're?
It is very spy-esque. The Marine Corps even had their own publication one time, and they published an article, and it had the old spy versus spy picture, and it said "Become a Marine spy."
Oh, from Mad Magazine.
Yeah,
yeah, very cool. I love that magazine.
Yeah, it was talking about us and the human intelligence piece. So yeah, the human intelligence piece is developing human relationships and getting information from human sources, and there's a lot that goes into that in order to do it properly, keep them safe, and to make sure you're vetting the information properly.
Mm-hmm.
The counterintelligence side is essentially preventing adversarial forces from gathering information from us through all the intelligence disciplines. So whether it's imagery intelligence, human intelligence, signals intelligence, or any of the other intelligence we have, it's basically doing assessments on yourself, knowing what the enemy's capabilities are, and then putting stop gaps in place to prevent them from gathering information on us.
Very cool. So what was your takeaway on that experience? How long did you do that for? It looks like quite a while.
Yeah, about 13 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was a very, high demand, high intensity job. When you're deployed, there's always work to do. There's always something to be done. There's never moments where you can sit back and relax, which kind of sucks at times. But at the other time, it does make the deployments go by faster than they would if you were sitting around too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but very high impact, as a young man, young woman doing that job, the impact you have on the battle space is enormous. You're basically pinpointing where, weapons caches are, you're finding out, indications and warnings of when the enemies are going to attack. You're finding out where, high valuable targets are at and, who they're speaking with and what they're planning. And so your ability to shape the battlefield at, a relatively low rank, young age is absolutely incredible. And to the opposite, if you do a bad job, the consequences can be brutal, that they can. So it really forces you to do your best because, failure is catastrophic.
Great training. So following your instructor stint, you deployed to Iraq again and then to the United Arab Emirates before retiring from the military in 2021. And again, thank you for your service. Very good.
Oh, it's
And
my pleasure, Jim. Thank you. I always tell people, they say, how was it? And I said it was pretty good for the most part. And the parts that weren't good make the best stories. So
good. Yeah, you always learn something, right?
Yep.
It's that experience. So let's see. As you were retiring, you began applying to and was accepted to the UCLA MBA program, and you graduate in June of this year. So that's coming up. How's that feel?
I can't wait. It's been an amazing journey. I like the people I've been able to rub elbows with and interact during that course have been phenomenal. I've learned more than I ever thought I could learn. But the workload is getting pretty intense and I'm ready to be done.
Yeah. After I read that, I'm thinking, wow, he's going to interview with me and he's in the middle of that. I'm honored.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, the aspect of in those courses of meeting people is probably half the benefit of getting the degree, I think, because it's those people who you'll get to know during that course and kind of trial by fire, and you're working together to get all that done. And then, so you've got this gauntlet you've been through together, and it keeps that relationship for years, maybe the rest of your life, probably. So those are great relationships to establish and keep with people who are, of like mind and very smart. So good for you.
Yeah, no, you nailed it, Jim. The network there is phenomenal, and it's executive MBA program. So it's people that are a little bit further along in life. Not the the traditional MBA crowd that's 26 to 28, but it's people that are 35 for the most part to like
See some
43,
life experiences and have a little more perspective.
a little bit more perspective, a lot more experience, and some of them are pretty prominent, some pretty big name organizations. So it's really, yeah, it's been really amazing. And they say you get half your education from your peers in school, and that is absolutely the case. So it's been phenomenal.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. So let's see. You began laying the groundwork to start your own business, and you've now done that, and you opened up the College Hunks hauling junk and moving franchise in Marietta. And you started that in October of last year, 2022. I'm going to pull up your website here and share that. So it's, College Hunks hauling junk and moving Temecula.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that. How did you get started doing that? What was it that was exciting about moving and hauling junk for a guy who's been in counterintelligence and spy versus spy and has his executive MBA on the way?
Yeah. So, first off, there's not really anything that's that exciting about moving junk and, or hauling junk and moving.
Uh-huh.
There are small things day to day that kind of get exciting, but in regards to the actual industry itself, there's nothing I would say that's like super exciting about it. But as I was, getting ready to retire from the military and, looking at post-Marine Corps employment and what I was going to do, to supplement my pension, my wife was very adamant that we're not leaving California. And most the counterintelligence, human intelligence jobs that exist are East Coast based.
Yeah.
And the ones, even the ones that you can find in the California area require you to be gone a lot. And I'm a father of 3, and I couldn't justify being gone, from my children for extended periods any longer. So I knew it was time to make a pivot from that world. As much as I loved it, it took me away from the thing I love the most, which is my family.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was time to pivot. So I really just started, exploring different options, and I kind of wanted to take there's all kinds of stories about, entrepreneurs, eating top ramen for years, while they're developing their product and, waiting for it to blow up and, make their money. And I was like, I can't go that route. I got a wife and 3 kids. So I got to.
You've got all this overhead. You probably have a house, the mortgage and a car, and you've got cash flow. You've got overhead to take care of. You can't, it's a luxury to be able to be an entrepreneur and not have cash flow coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I decided to take a safer path in regards to entrepreneurship and purchase into a franchise and hopefully, grow it to a point in a few years that I can start taking, riskier entrepreneurial endeavors.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that I got, consistent, income coming in from this business. In
Mm-hmm.
regards to, college hunks, hauling junk and moving, what attracted me particularly to this franchise is a few things.
Yeah.
The first is, the motto. The motto is to move the world. We do so literally by moving people's items from one place to the other, and we do so figuratively by giving back to the communities that we serve. For every job we complete, we donate 2 meals to feed hungry children, and we also move victims of domestic violence at a reduced rate and sometimes for free if we can. So that was first and foremost. I knew I wanted to be part of a company, having served in the Marine Corps for 20 years and served people all over the place. I knew I wanted to continue serving and making a positive impact with whatever franchise I did. So that was
Mm-hmm.
the first thing. The second is the culture. We have 4 core values for College Hunks. And, one of those core values is, building leaders.
Mm.
And that is something I absolutely, by far, was the favorite aspect of my military career was to, mentor and train Marines junior to me that, were incredibly intelligent, hardworking, but lacked the experience and, being able to train them up and guide them and mold them into, what they would eventually become or are, becoming was probably the thing I loved most about it and the thing that made it the hardest to walk away when I decided to, hang up the camis. And so, going into a franchise that really took a stance on, raising young men and women, we kind of joke like, let the leaders of tomorrow move your stuff today. And you
Mm.
take that to heart.
I
I
like
got
that. That's a great saying.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I got some young guys that, are, this is the path on their journey. And I hope to, keep them as long as I can keep them. But my goal for each and every one of my employees is if they do leave, when they do leave, that they leave a better person than they were when they got here. And so that was really kind of what attracted me to this particular franchise. It wasn't so much that I really wanted to get into the moving business or I really love the idea of hauling junk. It was the motto and the culture and what the company stands for. Those were my driving factors.
Beautiful. So what is it that you're doing now to help build the leaders of tomorrow? Can you give me some specifics?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the way our company is structured, we're still in our infancy. So we basically, apart from myself, we have 2 positions. We have what are called hunks. That's the guy that just comes in and, they're the worker bees. They're the ones that make stuff happen. They get things done. And then we have captains who are the ones that are in charge of certain jobs, right? They go
Mhm.
out on a job, the one that's in charge of it to make sure it gets done properly. And so one thing that I like to do is I like to, put them a little bit outside their comfort zone, give them a little bit more than they're used to handling, and give them a little bit of rope to make mistakes and
Okay.
hopefully learn, right? And
Yeah.
I always tell, like I expect you to lose me some money here and there, as long as it's a reasonable, we're not talking, excessive amounts of money. But I was like, I want you guys to make mistakes, but as long as the intent behind the mistake meets 2 criteria, then I could live with it. And the
Hmm.
first one is it done to make the customer happy, right? Is what you did done to make sure the customer is happy? Another one of our core values is listen, fulfill, delight. And that's customer based. We want our customers to be happy with the service they got. And so I
I'm
tell my
sorry, say that
guys,
again. Listen, what was it?
listen, fulfill, delight. So listen to the customer's wants, fulfill what those wants are, and make sure they're delighted with the results.
Okay. All right.
And
Awesome.
yeah, and so, I tell my guys, you got autonomy to make certain decisions, not all decisions. Some decisions have to come through me, but I do give them autonomy to make decisions
Mhm.
on site when I'm not present. And I tell them, you got 2 rules to follow. And it might not be you might not make the right decision, but as long as, you follow these two rules, then we'll talk about it, and we'll talk about ways to improve those decisions going forward. And like I said, the first one is it done to make the customer happy? And then the second one, I am in business, right? So is it done with the company's bottom line in mind
Okay.
and ethical, right? And so if they can answer those two decisions, or at least explain what drove their decision process, and I saw that those two were factored into their process, then they got autonomy to work and make decisions. And some of these, they're guys, I got a couple 18-year-old guys on my team, and they're coming straight from high school, haven't had to make a decision in their life other than, like, where should I apply to, and, things of that nature. And so that is one aspect of something, I do to help them grow and mature. And like I said, the other one is, I give them little bits of increased responsibility as, I see they're starting to master certain aspects of the job. I'll give them something a little extra that hopefully is a little bit outside their comfort zone, knowing that they might make a mistake or two, but in the process grow from it.
Excellent. Yeah, I love that. That's so important for us to be helping to bring the next generation of leaders up, and do it in a way that's it's positive. Give them a little room to make some mistakes, and not bash them for making a mistake, but help them to understand what they did right and wrong and learn from it. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Sounds
Again,
like
there's a cap on it. I can't afford too big of a mistake, but they understand that.
Yeah, I remember there was a famous story. There was an author. I'm not sure if he's still around. His name's Tom Peters, and he had a story in one of his books where an employee rented a helicopter to save the day. Those aren't cheap to rent, but he ended up doing the right thing. He rented the helicopter to get the job done, and it ended up saving their customer a ton of money. So it all worked out.
Yeah. Awesome. What was that book called, Jim?
In Search of Excellence.
Search of Excellence.
Yeah, Tom Peters. It's an oldie, but a goodie.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah. He talks about high tech, high touch, all these things. I'm still using all that stuff. So let's see. You opened up your franchise, and then you along the way, by the way, but very, very critical, as you started your family. You said you had 3 kids, and how did you meet your wife? Where'd you guys? She's obviously a Californian.
Yeah, we met in San Marcos.
Okay.
It was, I joked that we met at a restaurant, but it was a restaurant that doubled as a club at night, and it was during that portion that we met. But every time people ask, I always joke that we met in a restaurant. But no, we met at a club as, two young 20-somethings, just doing 20-something things. And we started dancing, talking, started going out, and here we are. That was 2006. So yeah, here we are almost 17 years later.
Wow, that's great. Well, congratulations. Keep that going.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you're active in the church. And what church you go to, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, right now we go to the church off of Scott Road in Menifee, Center Point. And,
okay.
Yeah, so we go there. That's our spot. We haven't been as active at this one as we were at our church we were at prior when we were living in Virginia Beach. No excuses. We need to get more involved and get more active, but we have every intent to do so.
Well, that's great. It's always good. And then let's see, your coach. You've been coaches, all that sports activity. What sports are you coaching? Are you still involved with that?
Yeah. So right now I'm coaching my son's majors baseball team.
Oh, very good. How old's your son?
Yeah, he's 12. He turned 12
Okay.
at the beginning.
Great age.
Yeah, I love baseball at that age because it's like the perfect blend of, you get some good defense, but you also get some hitting. As you go up a little bit, you stop getting the good hitting, and it just becomes good defense, and the game slows down a little bit. But yeah, at this age, it's super fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've coached in baseball a few times, basketball. Um, yeah, that's it. The only ones I've coached, baseball and basketball.
Ah, excellent. Well, let's see. I have, gosh, the time goes so quick. I have uh, just one more question I wanted to ask you before we wrap it up.
All right.
And it, it's basically, I ask this of everybody now. It's of all the decisions that you've had to make and all the time that we've kind of covered here in this brief chat, that the decisions that you've had to make over that time, what was the boldest one and what were the consequences of that?
Oh man. Um, well, I'll give you kind of two answers to this one. The first one is just kind of a personal decision. I guess it really wasn't a decision, but something that I had to do very early on in my Marine Corps career. And it might sound a little crazy to those that don't know. Um, but like I said, I was part of that initial invasion of Iraq.
Mm,
And when we weren't on the go, we weren't moving, and we kind of like hung out in a spot for a little bit more than a few days. The way we disposed of our human waste was, we cut 55-gallon drums and, in half, placed them under like these makeshift toilets that we made, and you did your business in those, 55-gallon drums.
hmm
To dispose of those drums, you had to dump fuel in it, and then some unlucky person had to steer it. And I was at that time one of the low men on the totem poles, and I had to do my share of, stirring the crap, and not all of it was mine.
Yeah.
And, and it sucked. It sucked a lot at the time. And, one thing I'll say that, that really helped me in my career was doing the stuff that nobody else wants to do, or that nobody else, can do. Um, when it's your time to do it, is incredibly important.
Mm,
And obviously I don't want to do any of that,
right.
but in hindsight, it really helped shape me as a leader because, and it wasn't just that, there were many other examples of stuff I did, to help out the team, help out the fight. But having done like the dirtiest of dirty work, right? Like nobody throughout my career could ever look at me when I asked them or told them or gave an order to do something. They can never look at me with, that skepticism of you wouldn't do it or you didn't do it yourself, because I did do it. And so that, I would say, that was one of the big things that really really shaped me, and made it easier for me to take on more leadership roles, was doing the dirty work, because it made it easier for me to tell other people to do the dirty work later on when
hmm
you have to tell them to do the dirty work. In regards to big leadership decisions that I've had to make, there was an instance, when I was an instructor at our schoolhouse, and the counterintelligence human intelligence training, it's a long course, 5+ months. It's got one of the highest attrition rates for military schools. People just fall out because they can't meet the academic standards. Not everybody's cut out to be human or CI. And at the time, there was, some conflict with some of the senior leaders and some of the implementation that was, being done. And it was being done not in the best way.
Mm,
And at one point, even though I knew how I was being told to implement something was going to fail, I was told, you got to let it fail so we can make the correct, the correct react, corrections. We can
mm,
make the proper corrections to rectify it. But in that scenario, by me letting the thing fail, it would have negatively impacted my students, who would have lost hours and hours of their time learning something they shouldn't have learned. It would have caused a lot of havoc on my instructors having to go back and rectify it. And as
hmm
previously mentioned, it had an incredibly high attrition rate. And so I could not afford to have them wasting tons of hours doing something that wasn't going to be effective. And so I
Hmm.
made the decision to basically tell my boss, we're not doing that.
And your boss
And
was a higher ranking officer, I'm assuming?
he was,
Yeah.
yes, he was.
So you
And
were taking some risk making that decision.
I was taking a lot of risk, a lot of risk. And, it's the old adage, nobody ever feels bad about doing the right thing at the right time or the wrong time. You never feel bad about doing the right thing. And
Mhm.
although I knew personally I took risk by doing that, I knew making that particular decision was the right thing. And I did pay the price for a little while. And then eventually, all that stuff got brought up and the people that were trying to implement that ended up getting relieved of, their duties. But it was incredibly difficult on myself. But like I said, you never feel bad about doing the right thing. And luckily for me, and it's not always the case for a lot of people, but luckily for me, history has judged it kindly and it worked out in the way it should have.
Oh, that's a great bold leadership story right there. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's
It's a
taking
pleasure.
that step, that leap of faith that you're doing the right thing against the the odds of you getting personal consequences and just letting letting the fact that you're doing the right thing be the judge in the end, even though you suffered some making that decision. It sounds like it was the right move in the end too. So
Yes, sir.
what would you say for people, for leaders that are listening to this coming up? How would you help them to understand when they're in that kind of position to be making those kind of decisions and when to know which direction to take?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I kind of said it already, and that's nobody ever felt bad about making the right decision,
Right.
even though making the right decision is hard at times. Like it might be hard at the time, but as time passes and you look back and you reflect upon it, you're never going to feel bad about doing the right thing and making the right decision. So just keep that in mind. It's hard. It's hard at the moment. It is. Trust me. I wrestled with it and it was
What was
very
your
difficult.
feelings? What was hard about it? What were your feelings of what made it difficult? And how did that, what describe the feeling? What was it like?
Yeah. Well, knowing the personal ramification, that the consequences of it, because,
Mhm.
the Marine Corps is a hierarchical
So
structure,
what was the worst case? What could they have done to you?
at that time in my career, like I wasn't going to lose rank, unless
Uh,
I did something, really bad.
yeah.
So like Greek wasn't a thing, but I could have got relieved of my position, which is obviously you lose a lot of face doing that, even though,
Mhm.
a lot of people that know what happened, but at the same time, you don't control the narrative for everybody. And it's a small community in the CI human world. Um, and your reputation is everything. Like your reputation means so much. It helps you when you're saying, hey, there's bad guys over here. We need to go kick that door in and get these guys while we have the chance. It's the difference between a commander saying, let's do it versus let's see what else we can get before we go do it. So your reputation is everything.
Mm.
And that was the biggest thing, knowing that I can't control, other people's perceptions as to, how that played out, knowing that if it played out wrong, I would walk into some doors and people's version of what happened might not be what really happened. Is probably the biggest risk I had.
Mm.
And, not to toot my own horn, but I had a little bit of WASTA in the community, and I was able to, get some things done that not a lot of guys were able to get done. And so also that would be the other big ramification of that would be not being able to get things done that I otherwise would have been able to get done.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Very cool. So good on you. Making those bold moves and now you've got stories to tell too. So I appreciate that.
And like I said, the worst time to make the best stories. So
Yeah. Well, I think our time's about up. I thank you very much for joining me on this episode. And yeah, next time you're out there looking for college hunks hauling junk and moving, call Destrian Vallejo. He's your
yes,
man
sir.
in Murrieta.
We're happy to help. You won't be dissatisfied, our promise.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me.
Yep. Thank you, Jim. Have a great day.
You too.